assessment, the empty chair. So one of the things is just to kind of look at is knowing the keywords. So when we look at Gestalt, we would think of it means wholeness, looking at the whole picture of things. So a Gestalt therapist really would focus on the here and now. And the here and now has to do with making sure that we take care of our unfinished business. Rosa is not hearing anyone. Can everyone else hear me? Or is it?
I can hear you.
Okay. So Rosa, check your volume, sweetie.
Now you can hear me. Okay.
I can hear you now. I do. So, in general, when it comes to studying, I do think that there's a lot of information out there. The information you get should not be different from anything else. You really should be getting the same information, whether you're using the Blue Book or if you're using Rosenthal. It should not be any different. Okay. I'm pulling up some information here. I'm going to share my screen in just a minute. But in general, so what we want to do is, in the real world, once you've passed this test, if you have questions, if this is not your area of specialty, you'll just Google it. But for the test, we really have to kind of learn the names and what it looks like and all those keywords that kind of let us know of what it would be. So if I'm looking at a Gestalt question, in general, so Freud first started with us, and Freud believed that everything was underneath. Freud believed that those poor, dumb women, oh my gosh, and he did treat women. The time when he taught was prior to Freud, we really didn't have any issues with hospitalizing your wife. You just kind of throw her in the hospital, do that whole insane asylum thing because, she had issues. We did lobotomies. We did ice baths, all those things to kind of get rid of the demons that were there. Freud came up with this talk therapy. He says, let me talk to people. Let's just figure out what's going on with them. So he was the first one. However, he did not believe that you are capable of doing it by yourself. What he believed is that if you could tell him what you believed, what you thought, and he would then tell you what that really meant. So most of Freud's tests were very much subjective. So can somebody share with me one of Freud's testing, how he would get information? Somebody's watching the debate returns, it looks like. I don't know who's not on mute. Mute yourself, guys. You're more than welcome to share, but just if you're listening to something in the background, just mute yourself. Okay. So in general, when it came to Freud, he thought he was the expert. He thought that he knew everything better than every woman, than everyone. And again, he was our first talk therapist, so he thought he was the expert and he knew what was going on. So then, our first one we're going to talk about is Gestalt. Gestalt therapy really looks at the wholeness of it. Pull that up. I'm going to use the Helwig book. If you use Pocket Prep, that's where it comes from. Just paging down here until we get there. Okay. Okay. So again, in general, if we start with our theorists, and we look at Freud was our first one. He's great with all those wonderful anything unconscious. So anything on the question, the test talks about the unconscious, your unconscious, your conscious, or your preconscious. Preconscious were things that, of course, you could recall by yourself, and what he believes all the things that were unconscious that you needed him to do. He used the TAT, thematic appreciation test. He also used the things like the Rorschach, which is my inkblot test. He also gets credit for all of those defense mechanisms, which is not true because he didn't actually do all those. His daughter did them, and he got credit for them. But then our first theorist, when it comes to Zen, we're going to talk about so our humanistic people include Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. So what Maslow said was that he came up with that triangle. What's on the bottom part of that triangle, guys? Exactly. Thanks. On the bottom part of that triangle was our basics. So if you've ever had any, I'm sure none of you guys have had, but for me, there's been some times where I have been like starving. I'm starving, and that hangry thing is real. I can't do this because I'm so hangry. What he said is our needs need to be met first. Okay. So Maslow said that it was important that we take care of those basic needs first. Carl Rogers focused on the human relations, the social influence, and skills. His theory was that our clients were the experts. He also was the first one that took it from being a patient to being a client. Because what Freud believed is they were patients. We had to fix them. Our goal was to fix them and make them better. But what Carl Rogers said is, they're the experts. They know what they're doing. And sorry guys, my hiccups there. Oh. I don't want to be growing anymore, that's for sure. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So then, we'll go back to Carl Rogers, and he's the first one that said they're not patients, they're clients. They're the experts in their area, and they're very good at what they do. They know it's their lives, and what we need to do is just focus on them. Okay? So when it comes again to my helping professions, we talk about Sigmund Freud. My id, ego, and superego. What do those look like? What is my id?
The id is the pleasure principle.
It is. My id says, I want, I want, I want, I want. Okay. My ego, my superego says, no, 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 no. And my ego rationalizes it. So what that looks like is for me, my id says, Pam, eat pizza. Eat pizza, you love pizza, you love pizza, you love pizza. And my ego says, no, Pam, you don't eat pizza. Sorry. My id says, you want, you want, you want, you want. My superego says, no, we cannot have pizza. It's not working out. My ego says, Pam, a slice of pizza is fine. So my id and my ego, my id and my superego are constantly battling back and forth to figure out what we're going to do. So on the test, what you'll see is anything that says unconscious, an unconscious decision, unconscious choice, those always belong to my id, my ego, and my superego, as well as his psychosexual stages. So my id, again, is my want, my devil, my angel. I want, I have to have. My superego says, no, Pam, you cannot have pizza. Your pizza that's for adults. That's your kid. I mean, that's for kids. You're an adult. We don't need pizza. That's not okay. My ego says, you can have a slice of pizza. It won't be the end of the world. So when it comes to helping relationships, that's what Freud said. My id is always wanting what it wants. My superego always says, no, you can't have. And my ego says, we can figure this out. That's what that says. Okay. When it comes to Freud also, id, ego, superego. So transference and countertransference. Freud believed that transference was actually a really good thing. He actually encouraged his students to encourage his clients to actually, he wanted them to transfer. He wanted them to transfer their stuff onto him. And of course, countertransference is, the opposite way. Okay. Who was Horny? What did she do, Karen Horny? She's one of my feminist approach. She really looked at the person's, your motivation. And remember that Freud was a I'm sorry, not Freud, but Maslow was a motivational theorist. We look at Carl Jung and Alfred Adler. Carl Jung, his issues had to do with birth order. Alfred Adler was on birth order. Carl Jung helped us come up with the MBTI. Okay. Margaret Mailer, she did our theory based on object relations. Gestalt, Fritz Perls, that's his name. Sometimes on the test you'll see Fritz Perls. Sometimes you'll see Gestalt. Okay, it was complete. The issue was finishing our past. Our experiential therapy, that was really about our experience. Why are we here? What's going on? TA, Eric Byrne. What's that one? My parent, child, adult. What did that look like? My parent, child, adult has to do with the 3 stages that he believed that the 3 that we all had. Eric Byrne said that we all have 3 of us in there. My parent, child, and my adult. And what he believes is how we relate to each other. So in a healthy relationship, we all have those transactions. He believed that all of us had our parent ego, our adult ego, and our child ego. Okay. And then look at this. This is how we talk to each other. So complementary transactions had to do with us being our own level. Ulterior transactions had to be things that were hidden. And our cross transactions had to be things that were not on the same level. Can somebody give me an example of a cross transaction? So a question on the test. The spouse, can you give me more? You're correct, but can you give me more? So a cross transaction is actually quite common. Let's say your spouse is sick, or it's okay to play the adult sometimes. So let's say that you're married to someone and he's sick, so you have to be the adult while he's a child, which is okay, normal. But in a healthy relationship, that can't happen all the time. In a healthy relationship, we're all supposed to be on the same level. So that's his concern with the cross transactions. Complementary, of course, is when we're on the same page, we're good. And ulterior, those are hidden. So if you look there, ulterior motives, equal communication, cross transaction has to do between two different egos. Okay, and the communication levels, level of the social message, and the level of the psychological message. Okay. So again, complementary, adult to adult, cross, like the barriers of communication. It's okay for temporary, but it's really not okay when it comes to a long-term relationship. Existentialism. Why do I exist? REBT, what does that look like? Rational. Go ahead.
Isn't it like our experiences determine how we react to certain situations, or how we perceive certain things?
Okay. You are correct. Irrational thoughts, irrational processes. So what we're looking at with REBT, and most often we see the REBT ABCDE method, and really looks like at how our irrational thoughts and what it looks like. REBT and our ABCD model. Okay. Okay, different image here. Okay, there we go. So in general, that's what it looks like. An acting event, something happens, my belief about that event, my emotional consequences. My D is then what I'm going to tell myself. My therapist steps in and she says, "Hey, wait a minute, those things aren't true." Okay, and E are my new beliefs. Someone give me an example of what that might look like. Oh, Tammy, be brave and just talk. I don't bite today, I promise.
Okay, well, you have a client just per se, has a panic attack while she's getting ready to start speaking publicly or something.
Perfect. Okay.
And then, so I guess the activating event would be the fact that she's getting ready to go up and speak, but then she's got this panic attack. The belief might be that she will not make it. She will faint. She will just be disastrous. The C are the consequences. Maybe she'll think she loses her job.
Okay.
And then the D, we have to sit back and we have to dispute the beliefs. We have to say, you know, we have to look at the belief, maybe the behind that panic. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Okay.
And then,
Okay. So I'm gonna say that so this event happened,
yeah,
and your thoughts are irrational. So then, what does she think about herself?
maybe that she can't do it. She's not worthy of speaking. Somebody else can
Got
do it.
it. You got it. So someone calls her to speak at a different time. Will she accept it?
More than likely, at a different time afterward, more than likely she's going to be scared to accept it, right? If that's that's your question,
Exactly, because her beliefs are that she's not a good speaker.
right?
Okay. So D, the therapist comes in, and what happens?
Changes it.
What happens?
We have to dispute those beliefs. We have to dispute the beliefs about, that she can't speak,
Okay.
that she's going to panic. We've got to look at why panic is there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. So her new beliefs, how would that work from the therapist's viewpoint?
I think I don't do REBT, so I'm guessing, but I think it's a matter of why do we believe what we believe, and then practicing,
So
just go ahead.
what I want to do is really correct those irrational, that I want to dispute her beliefs.
Mhm.
Hello, you're a great speaker. This had nothing to do with your speech. And then I want to give her effective new beliefs. So what would her new beliefs look like?
That she can speak, that she will not lose her job. Let's get
Exactly.
rid of that major fear that crisis is going to happen.
Exactly. Perfect. Very good. And that REBT, who's that belong to? You remember?
Is that Ellen's?
Yeah, Albert Ellis. Perfect. Good job. Yes, exactly. Good. So Windows. Okay. And that's what it looks like. Belief system, self-talk, or crooked thinking. A is the event. B is the belief. C is the consequence. D, we're going to dispute that. And E, then we have a much healthier cognitive belief system. Okay. What's that basic ID? Anybody can share that with me? So what it stands for is my behaviors, my affective responses, and my sensations, images, cognitions, interpersonal relationships, and any drugs that would be important to this. So what he believed, that's Lazarus, multimodal really just means different modalities. So he was okay with looking at different approaches to the families or the individuals, but based on his basic ID. So assessment covered all the 7 modalities in order to have a total human being. Okay. Again, William Glasser, my reality therapy, choice therapy, that we all have a choice. We know what's happening in our life, and we have a choice to make. He said we have 5 basic needs: survival, love, belonging, power, achievement, freedom, independence, and fun, which is not a whole lot different than Maslow's theory. Okay. SFBT, solution focused. What am I looking for? What would be a key, a clue in the question that let me know it was SFBT? Solution focused brief therapy. Miracle question? What's that? Goals, yes. You got it. Was solution focused, short and sweet, and that miracle question comes right in there. So if you were to wake up tomorrow and everything was better, what would it look like? That's my miracle question, that solution focused brief therapy. The scaling. So if yesterday was a 9, what is today? Are things getting better? That's most often what we would see. What's my narrative approach? What's that one look like, guys?
Is that more client stories, their stories about their lives?
Exactly. And what's wrong with those stories? So most often the story I tell in my head is what I heard from my mom or what I heard from other people. So I continue to tell those same stories. Are they healthy always?
No.
No, exactly. So with narrative therapy, what do I want to do?
Retell the story.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. Those tapes we repeat in our head always, always, always. I'm 54 years old, and I'm pretty sure that I can't wear white until Labor Day. Well, Labor Day and Memorial Day, because that's my tape. That's my tape in my head. I lived in South Florida for a while, where it was always warm. I couldn't erase that tape. That's my narrative. So what we want to do is kind of deconstruct that narrative, deconstruct that story, and repeat it differently. So what I hear in my head is differently than what is actually going on. Okay. Difference between integrative and eclectic? What's that?
Integrative uses more than one technique.
Mm-hmm. Integrative suggests that I have my own technique. I'm adding that to my story. Eclectic, says I have nothing. I don't have a base to draw from. Okay.
Dr. Turner, can I get clarification there? Would you repeat the definition of integrative?
So integrative suggests that I have my own. So integrative goes beyond eclectic which is the use of various techniques. Integrative implies I have my own model. I have my own beliefs. So I'm most of the time a behaviorist, or I'm most of the time a Freudian, and I'm going to add those other beliefs into my system. Eclectic says I have nothing. I don't have a belief at all. And I use all of these different techniques based on what the client needs. Okay? Not good or bad, just is. Okay. So eclectic, I don't have a technique. Integrative, I'm adding the technique that I've learned into what I already believe. Okay. And again, just over those theories, basic. Okay, psychoanalytic theory. For the test, psychoanalytic and psychodynamic are the same. Psychodynamic is what we use now. It's a shorter version of the psychoanalytic approach. But any question on the test that says unconscious, psychosexual development, all of those things I know belongs to anything psychoanalytic.
Hello?
Yes, question?
Could you give an example, like what would be on the test with the
I
integrative
can.
and
I
elected?
can. So if I can find a question. Hmm. What you might say is Sally is currently using a behavioral approach, and her client expresses many feelings. If she if she adds a humanistic approach or adds Carl Rogers to her techniques, what would that be? Because she already has her own approach, and adding to that, that would make it integrative. Eclectic is when I don't have anything of my own. I'm just kind of, and they're not good or bad, they're just facts. So not all of us have a base to draw from. So if I just use this from whatever, or this client is a behavioral approach, and this one will express with psychodynamic, then I'm going to make sure that I use that for my client. There are a lot of people who still stick very much to their basic approach. It can be a behaviorist. I have a student now who's a total psychoanalytic approach. So as we're studying for the test, anything that's not unconscious is very foreign to him. So most of us have something that we like, something that's easy for us. That's what that looks like. How about Adlerian theory? What does that look like? You come to my house all the time, or why don't you want to come now? Adler, the terms we'll look for, he put in that birth order theory, inferiority, superiority. That many times I felt inferior because of my birth order. Family constellation. Okay. Existential. Why do I exist? Why am I here? Human condition includes a capacity for self-awareness, freedom of choice, and a decide my own fate. Key concepts, again, words you would look for. It stresses the core human condition. Personality development is based on the uniqueness of each individual, and a sense of self-development from empathy.
I have a question about the existentialist
Please
therapy.
ask. Uh-huh.
Um, I was under the impression that existential, your perception is your reality. So, as a counselor or therapist,
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily what I think, but what the client um, sees it as. Is that correct?
In general, doesn't it always matter what the client's perception is?
I would think so.
All that matters is what the client believes. We work within their belief system. So my existentialist belief is they're really looking at higher order thinking. They're not at the bottom of Maslow's chart of, how do I pay my bills and can my kids, have a place to eat or sleep tonight? It really is at higher order thinking. And we're going to start with our client. We'll start where our client is. Okay. So if
Okay.
that's their belief system, we're going to work within their belief system. And I think that happens with most of our theories, though.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the words you'll look for, sense of self-development from empathy, interest is in the present, and what is becoming? What can I be? And why do I exist? That's one of the easiest ways for me to remember that one. Okay. Person-centered, of course, Carl Rogers. Okay. He believed that we didn't call them clients, they were our patients. You'll look for, in the question, you'll look for words like congruence, warmth, genuineness, all of those things. Okay. Gestalt, here and now. That's what you'll look for on the test always. He believed if we had that unfinished business, we could finish. If we could finish our unfinished business, which the empty chair was about. Tell your mama, she's not here anymore, but tell her what you think. If we can finish that business, we can move forward and be a whole person. Our behaviors, of course, do they care about feelings? Nope, they did not. Change the behavior. I'm sorry your dad molested you. I'm sorry this happened in life, but the bottom line is we need to change your behavior. So a behaviorist really didn't look at any of those issues. Present behavior is given attention. Theory is based on the principles of learning theory. Normal behavior is learned through reinforcement and imitation behavior. That's the whole positive, negative reinforcement technique. I see a lot on the test, and a lot of my students have issues with. My CBT. What name goes to CBT?
That's Ellis would be rational.
CBT is his back. That back depression scale and the back anxiety inventory. So you don't see that a lot, but he's the one who really kind of focused on my CBT. And of course, thinking how that works. If I change my cognitions, what happens?
The behaviors change.
Okay. So if I change my thoughts, I change my behaviors. Therefore, I change what?
My reality.
Exactly. How I feel about myself. Talk about reality therapy. My feminist approach. That really was empowerment, making sure that we understood that. And it's not always just about women. It is really about being empowered. There's tons of those family systems approaches where it comes to like the systemic and strategic and structural. Okay, let's go back and do some questions based on this. So again, the new test is broken up differently. However, it doesn't change. It's the same information that we're looking at before. Okay. So we're going to look at the top of relationships. It labels them differently, but it's the same information. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So 180 or at one, I'm sorry, yes, 180. What did Freud think? Type in or just speak up. A, ever changing. Exactly. Exactly. Ever changing. Static things are things that we cannot change. Static things include, where I was born, what family I was born into, all that good stuff. But dynamic means always changing, and I have more control over those things. Okay, 181, my Freud. What was in his mind? Preconscious.
Preconscious. Oh, the preconscious.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at it. It's called topography. A map of our mind. Topography is the word you might see on the test. Okay. So what he believed, what was in our conscious things we had no, our unconscious things we had no control of. Our preconscious was our memory and our stored knowledge. Our conscious level, our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. So then our unconscious level, that's where all my defense mechanisms were stored. Remember, defense mechanisms were help to protect us from things that might happen, views that might happen. Preconscious I can do by myself. And the conscious level is so small. So if you see the word subconscious, that's not correct. We wouldn't do that for this test. Okay. So 181, let's answer that one. Oops.
Let's say A.
That is A. You are correct. You got it. Perfect. 182. Is that my id, ego, or superego? It's acting out.
That would be the id.
It would be, because it's my pleasure principle, right?
Mhm.
Right.
The devil made me do it. I didn't mean to put my car in there. It was the devil.
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly. Got it. You got it. Okay. 183.
I'm gonna guess and go super ego. It's got to be C. I'm thinking C.
Okay. So guilt results when ideal standards are violated. And of course, my superego is my angel. She's so perfect. Don't break any rules, Pam, ever. Perfect. You got it. 184.
This would be the ego. Yeah. B.
Exactly. You got it. That's B. Perfect.
You
Either
know,
defense mechanisms. Go ahead.
Dr. Turner, those pictures, it's like when I see the devil and the angel and then the I don't know, the rational, they really it makes sense. I love your pictures. I keep
It
thinking,
just makes it easier. I think that many of us, and especially if you're, listening to the Rosenthal CDs or any of the books, a picture, the picture says 1,000 words. It's just so much easier to understand.
mhm,
And I'm a very visual learner.
mhm.
So, okay. Thanks. I'm glad that helps. 185, ego mechanisms.
The ego. The logical. Operate at an unconscious level. I'm gonna say D.
Yes, they are normal and they operate on the unconscious level. The goal of that was really to protect us. That's what the defense mechanisms were about.
So why are they not pathological?
Oh, because they're normal. That's part of who we are.
Okay,
Okay. And again, this is based on Freud,
okay.
and Freud believed that they were not. Okay. Many of my other theorists would disagree, but I want to talk about Freud right now. And he did not. He thought they were a normal part of us. 186. Not at all, Sean. Sorry. This is just a study guide. Not at all. It won't happen.
Suppression. She don't want to think about it. B.
Okay. Difference between B and D. Okay, B and C. What's the difference?
Repression, or maybe it's regression. You go backwards when
Okay,
you've gotten through it, I guess.
that's regression.
That's
Okay,
regression.
so suppression and repression are actually the same thing when I push it down. So what's different about this question? She really doesn't want to think about it.
So that would,
So I'm in the same place we are when we first started dating. I'm terrified that you'll break my heart. ... So I'll do everything I can to push you away so that won't happen. Suppression is when I'm pushing it down and I'm aware of it. Repression is I'm not aware of it. Okay. What's
so
my reaction? Yes, the answer is suppression because she's aware of it. She doesn't really want to think about it. What's my reaction formation?
oh shoot, I just read this.
Is that when you say something to someone and you really don't mean it?
It's more than that. I'm forming a reaction opposite of what I really feel. So the
Yeah.
question might be, I have a roommate, and my roommate's gay, and I make fun of him all the time because he hangs out with gay people, but yet secretly I'm attracted to him.
Yes.
Okay. That's suppression. I'm sorry, that's a reaction formation. Displacement, what's that one?
That's blaming someone else.
So I'm angry. My boss fired me, and I'm angry. And where might I place that?
Maybe on your
Maybe,
children.
yes, it can be an inanimate object. I can kick the door. I can
Right.
slam my car door. All of those things. You got it. Okay. Look at 187. Emily.
Yeah, I was like either A or D. I mean B, A or B.
Okay. So then, what is she doing? What's the mom doing?
Projecting.
What does that
She's
look like?
blaming. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you
So,
know,
what did you think about herself?
I think it's she's mirroring how she feels about herself, but
So,
projecting it onto Emily.
exactly. If I feel this way about myself, obviously you do too, right?
Right.
That's what projection looks like. Got it. Okay. Rationalization. Where would I see that?
Is that the devil made me do it? Something like that? Just rational.
Mhm. So, most often I'm going to see in a substance abuse relationship or a domestic violence relationship, I wouldn't have hit her if she had blah, blah, blah. It was her fault because she didn't make my dinner because, blah, blah, blah. So I'm rationalizing. I'm making what makes sense to me. Um, so that way I can defend and protect my own choices and behaviors.
Is that like trying to like justify why?
It is. Rationalization is justifying. Exactly. Okay. 188.
Geometry.
No matter what happens, I'm pretty sure that you're going to break up with me again. So, dot, dot, dot. I'm never going to be what you want. Mhm. Okay. So then, when you inquire, he tells you he punched the bedroom door after fighting with his wife over finances again. This is
Displacement.
yes, very good, very good. Okay, let's go down. That was my Freud. Okay, let's look at Adler. Well, 195. Adler believed the blank was the mainstay of personality. What did Adler believe?
Superconscious, conscious, unconscious, preconscious.
So superconscious, I'm pretty sure is something we've never heard before. So that can't be it.
Right.
That one is B. He was a follower of Freud, and he believed the unconscious had a lot to do with it. He wasn't as psychosexual, definitely as Freud, but he definitely believes it's part of the unconscious. Okay. So put 96. That's Adler. Someone like your wife who follows all the rules and
Middle child.
would never get things like tattoos or say bad words.
Is she? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Or say bad words. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, 196 is A. That would be the oldest child.
Do you mind explaining that?
I'm sure. So let's look at those birth order. Okay. So again, that's just really what he believed. And it's actually more in depth. And for the test, if you and your child, I'm sorry, your children more than 7 years apart, they don't fall into this. So between 7 years, if you had a first kid, second time, a second kid 7 years later, third time, another 7 years later, then they actually would be only children. So there more than 7 years between the kids.
wow.
That makes sense.
Okay. I have 3 children. They are 8, 22, and 16. I've raised 3 only children. They're not quite 7 years apart, but they are 3. I have 3 only children. Okay. So Adler, what did he see?
Uh-uh. I would say D.
always late.
Is it B or D?
I think
Even though
D.
they were a teacher, it was C.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
he was a teacher. Okay.
Would have got that one wrong.
198. Look at that one. Adler. That's another one. It's an important term there. You made it very clear to me when we first met that you never wanted to get married again. ... And I'm definitely not your type. My house is a mess. My life is a mess. I'm always late. ... I'm okay with being the fun side chick. So those are called fictions. Those are things that we tell ourselves. Those are called fictions. Yeah, you got it. Fictions. Fictions is 198. Those are my fictions. Okay. Okay. So 202 is Frankel. Is that true or false?
That's false.
It is. Because he did believe suffering had a purpose. Good. 203, look at that one. According to my existential theorist,
Is that anxiety?
it is. Perfect. Perfect. Good. Okay. Gestalt. 205, Gestalt therapists see awareness as
Continuum.
no expectations of anything else. ... You made that very clear from the beginning. Okay. So my Gestalt therapist 205 is B on a continuum. Okay, look at 206. Okay. 207 is D. 206 is B. Okay, say that again using the I word. And 207, in terms of body imagery and its patterns, Gestalt therapist 207 is D.
Okay.
Okay. 208, look at RABT. So 208 is A. RET therapists have clients explore their faulty belief systems. Okay. Okay, let's look again. Okay, so look at number, oh wow. 210 is my transactional analysis. So we're looking at in TA, when two people are communicating from different ego states, it results in unexpected, hurtful responses. They are said to be engaging in what? $210 is C. Yes, ulterior transactions. Great. Good job. Okay. 213.
You said it was back on that transactional analysis.
TA, 210. That's that
Okay.
parent, child, adult. We each have those three ego states inside of us. And what he talked about was how we relate to each other.
Correct. And the correct answer is C.
C. It has corrected as C.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
213. Sorry, there we go. So when it comes to our behaviorists, we have two. We have Skinner, who's known for operant condition, and we have Pavlov, who did our classical conditioning. So 213 is B. That's my operant conditioning. That's my rewards and consequences. Okay. 214. Okay. 214 is A. It is social modeling. He learned from his brother, and he's not doing that again. Okay. Smart boy. If your older brother gets in trouble, let's not do this. Let's look at 216. So remember, my intervals are time. My ratios are numbers. So 216 is B. That's a fixed ratio. You have told me many of those things. And I also know that your greatest fear is dying. Yeah, my world is so much more fucked up than yours. Remember, my mother died at 16. Okay. 217. That's a behavioral term. Which one is that one? I was raped by my first boyfriend. And the last time I had sex with my husband, he raped me as well. We all have our shit in life, babe.
Not hard.
Okay. The 217 is D. That's the extinction. Okay. 218. This is not how I planned my life. I thought I'd be married happily forever. I didn't think I'd be 54 trying to figure out shit. Okay. So 218 is C, exactly. Systematic desensitization. Sometimes you'll see on this test in vivo desensitization. For the test purposes, I've not seen them see a difference. They're both kind of the same. So just for the test at least. Okay. Glasser and his reality therapy, what does that look like?
Can we go over the last question again? I'm sorry.
We can. Systematic desensitization.
Yeah.
So when it comes to phobias especially, there are a couple of ways we can treat them. Okay. So flooding is the first choice. And flooding to me always reminds me of, when you're afraid to swim. You can swim. You're just afraid and your mom just throws you in. Okay, like, just throws me in. So that's a behavioral technique. Okay. And what I'll do is, if I'm afraid of airplanes, if I'm afraid of heights, whatever I'm afraid of, instead of doing it slowly, I'm just going to put you in there. Okay? So he says fear of heights. He's doing it. He's just doing it. Oh my gosh. That's flooding all at the same time. Now the other choice is to do it slowly. So sometimes you'll see envy. What's going on? So sometimes you'll see in vivo as opposed to systematic. But for the test, I haven't seen them labeled any differently. Okay. The goal is that we're going to do it slowly. So the goal is slowly we're going to get you to be desensitized.
Gotcha.
So in vivo really just means inside. So systematic, again, it's a plan. I'm going to take you into the environment. I'm going to let your anxiety rise. You're afraid of flights, or you're afraid of planes. So we'll go to the airport. We'll sit at the airport. Anxiety will go up. You'll realize that you're not going to die. It comes back down. The second time, we're actually going to get out of the car and maybe go actually to the inside of the airport. Anxiety goes up. You're not going to die. The goal is eventually you'll get there. So that is so in vivo is you're confronting the actual fear, not just imagining it. Okay. Sometimes we use the word implosion for in vivo. So, but for the test, I haven't seen them differently. That just means that we're going to slowly get you ready, slowly desensitize you to what's going on. All right. Again, those are some things we're most often afraid of. Inversion therapy, what's that one? Inversion therapy is anything painful. Most often we see the example of an abuse when people who are drinkers, they take the pill first, and if they drink later, they throw up. Okay. If your mom or dad ever kind of put something on your thumb, some hot pepper or anything else on your thumb to stop you from, sucking your thumb, all those things are aversion therapy. And that's what it looks like for using anti-abuse. Okay, and that's my operant conditioning. Again, that belongs to Skinner. Okay. Look at 2019, Glasser, my reality therapy guy. Critical time for identity is when? You'll never know how much I wish things were different. I love you so much. I would have had 10 of your babies. You're everything I ever wanted in a man. Okay, so 219 is D. That's both A, B, and C. So according to Glasser, children ages 2 to 5 learn socialization and how to deal with frustrations and disappointments. But also at 5 to 10, they develop identity through socialization. Okay. 220, reality therapy. Main concept of that is, it's also called choice therapy. And what he would say is, it's your responsibility. You're able to make your own choices. You know what the consequences are. This is what's going to happen. Okay. So those are some of the biggies, and kind of giving you a clue of what it looks like and kind of what names you would put with it. Okay. So these are the relationships we look at. And with a new test, and if you haven't had, let me just kind of show you. I'm teaching. Can I call you in 5? Teaching. Can I call you in 5? Teaching.
How are y'all able to type in your answers?
If you open your text box,
I don't
if
see
you
it.
open your text box, it's the box that looks like a chat's going on. If you open that, that's how you type in.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
So what we did tonight really was just about content. And again, I've talked last week, if you have opened the new Pocket Prep, it really is much more than content. But you have to know content to be able to answer those questions. So it's been updated, and I often use other books. Okay. Okay. Okay, but if you look at pocket prep, okay, again, those are the subject areas starting March 1st. Again, it's not a total transition. It's been this slow transition the entire time. Okay. And then we looked at counseling skills and interventions. So you'll see it's the same information, just not a lot, not worded a lot differently. So look at this one. All the following are true regarding co-leadership, except which one? A, B, C, or D?
Models and recreate situations for the group. They should give each other feedback. B or D?
What do you think? That's an except question, so that means that 3 of those are right, and 1 of them is not.
Oh gosh, I didn't see that.
So always remember those except.
Yeah, except.
You got it. Okay.
I'm gonna have to say except is A. One has to.
It's C. Look
It's
at that one. It's C.
Oh, they shouldn't. Oh, yeah. I need to read this slower.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's accept.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, engage in power struggles. Ooh, I didn't see that. Right.
Okay. So systematic step. What concept is used? And I don't know how you would know this one, if anyone's ever used this program. And I haven't read a lot about it where you would know it.
I would guess and say A.
A?
I would say A. Nope, not A.
Okay. That is in the Hellwood book. And if you don't have the Hellwood book and you'd like a copy of it, just text me later. I'll gladly send you one. But I'm not sure how else you would know that. Okay.
Dr. Turner, I have a question when you have
Yes,
time.
please. Go ahead.
Okay, some girls, some other ladies, and I was talking about. I live in Alabama. You know, we can take a state exam and we can take the national exam.
Right.
But they only gives it twice a year, and they said it is
April
much
and November.
right, and they said it's much easier to pass. So, what do I need to say to the board, or do I need to call ProView, or what do I need to do if I want to take a shot at one of the nationals?
Does anybody know that answer?
No, I don't.
Okay. So my understanding is it has to do with the board. So you can call them and you can say, you know, which test I want to take. Okay. So I think it's totally up to what state you live in, because some states don't make that an option. Some states do have some people who, and you know, the scores are very different, you know, through the U.S. So I would
And
just really kind of give them a call and just kind of see what the rule is, and it's based on each state, unfortunately.
yes, because we had like 6 girls, 6 ladies, taking the example, the LPC.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, 4 or 5, because we got a big department working in a psych hospital. We had 6 ladies, all 6 failed, but every last one of the nationals got their LPC and NCC behind their name. So that's a difference too. Here in Alabama, that makes a difference.
Okay. And I don't know what the Alabama rule is. I do know that it is every state has their own rule.
Hey, you could talk about them because I do.
Okay, but every state has their own rule. So in my the passing score is amazing, and again, it's set by the state. So in like California, most of my states out there, it's a very high score. In my southern states, it's sometimes 85, 86.
Mhm.
Okay, so every state has their own rule.
Yep.
Mississippi requires, yeah, your hours. So what's the score? Do you know what the score is? And again, there's more than one test. They'll tell you there's different tests, and that's true. So it depends on what test they give you. But in my southern states, the score is much lower. And the problem with that is then those scores will not transfer to another state. So if you're planning on moving, then your score may not be acceptable in a different state. So that's why if you're
So they,
looking at the state exam, because if you want to transfer it someplace else, work online, you have to have the national scores.
right, because that's not going to grant you reciprocity or anything of that nature,
Exactly.
correct?
Now, if you get it in California or New York, most states will grant you reciprocity, but their
Okay,
scores are
okay,
higher.
all right. I've taken it once and I failed it, but I'm ready to go at it again. 'Cause
So yeah, I don't think it's really not much different. People are also afraid of the changes, and it really is not. It's a more of making sure that you still understand the concept and how you can apply the concept.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I
I do have to
appreciate you.
wrap it up, guys. I have another one coming up, but I appreciate you. This is a recording. You'll see it in the chat box when you're done, and also then I'll put it on YouTube about 2 weeks from now. Okay. The rep from the board said the score was based on the test I was given. Yes, that is true. They're different tests. However, it also depends on what your state sets the limits. So that's the difference. Is what is the passing score in your state as well as the numerous different tests. That's called parallel forms. You'll get the same test, however, the same information, but with parallel forms.
And I,
Okay,
I need to
guys.
get your information. I need to get your information so I can start the like private tutoring with you.
Okay.
Another
Thank you.
lady was telling me about that. So where could I find that
Hold on.
information?
I will just give it to you. I don't want it recorded. Let me stop recording. And it's all over Facebook. I don't mind if I want it out there.